Arsenal thrashed Chelsea to cement themselves firmly in the title race going into the last 4 games of the season, and one of the big reasons why they've continued their brilliant form is the upward success of Kai Havertz in centre forward. But why is this his perfect role, and why does it make all the players around him better? Well, let's get into it. Now, I think it's been obvious for quite a while, but I think everyone is sort of light into the idea after his brilliant performance against Chelsea that Kai Havertz is actually a decent centre forward and has been good since he's moved into that role for Arsenal. And the comparisons to him playing in left centre mid are drastic. In left centre mid, he has started 17 games, came off the bench twice, and played 1,385 minutes, getting 3 goals and 0 assists. Now, his stats are at a 0.2 goals expected, 0 assists expected per 90, and a 0.27 XG, which isn't the best, but he is playing more of a destroyer role where he has to win the ball from deep with great headers and distribution, and then run up to the box later trying to help Jesus. But when he is the main outlet this season, he has played 10 starts and 4 off the bench in the centre forward position, totaling to 894 minutes, and he has 8 goals and 5 assists, and all of his stats are incredibly up, with a 0.66 goals expected, a 0.55 assists per 90, and a 0.56 expected goals per 90. And a lot of the issues of him being in left centre mid aren't necessarily all down to him. He has to play a role where he goes into the box and makes it a 2 up front system, but because in order for us to get the ball in the deeper areas of the pitch for him even to be effective, we have to basically go down the right side guaranteed, and this makes it very predictable for the other teams to see what we were doing, and often they actually overall stopped our attack and stopped Odegaard or Saka even collecting the ball. But up front, this is arguably the complete opposite, and we saw this very much against Chelsea. Partey came into the team, which allowed Declan Rice to play high up on that left side, giving Arsenal much more balance because they could go down the left or right side, progressing the ball to Trossard as well in space. And they knew if they could progress the ball quickly through the midfield that they would be able to switch the ball quicker than Chelsea would be able to cover for it, and this happened a lot early on. We saw it with the first goal. Havertz comes deeper, peeling off of his 2 centre-back markers. They're not going to run with him because he's pushed up in too much of space. He finds space in between the 2 centre-mids, Caicedo and Enzo, who are supposed to be marking Odegaard and Rice, but because they want to keep compact and the spreadness by Odegaard and Rice means that one of them has to lead their marker, this time being Rice. Havertz comes in field and quickly passes the ball off to Partey, who passes it off to Rice, getting Arsenal into that half space, which ultimately ends up scoring the goal. But what I liked about Havertz is that he is very adapted to many things. This is coming in inside, obviously, to give the ball to Arsenal, but there was many times where he would go on the outside. He'd be on the last man running, trying to get the ball early, and Arsenal did this 18 seconds into the game with early chances where Chelsea would step up with their full defenders and Havertz would be on that last man trying to run through. But not only did he run inwards or run outwards, he really has got a tactical understanding of where he needs to be a lot of the time. There was many times where Arsenal would push up pressure down the right side or left side. This specifically happened in the second half, and when they did this, the team knew that they needed to go and help the other players. Odegaard and Saka are usually out there with Ben White, but Havertz and Partey would come over to give Arsenal more of an overload on them players. Havertz would even pick the ball up deeper than most of the other attackers sometimes, being able to progress the ball to one of the wingers or one of the other attacking players and push himself into the box, being great movement as well. And just looking at the positions that Havertz actually had touches in this game, you can see he's pretty much everywhere around the pitch. There's even many times where he comes back and helps defend him, but he's also very good at tracking runners as well. He often comes deeper a lot of the times to pick up the ball, but will sit in any half space that is vacated by any other player, and he really doesn't mind going around, which I think makes him a very vital player for Arsenal. And even if you don't look at his positions, if you just look at his raw stats between when he's played this season between other midfielders or other attackers, you can clearly see what he excels at. In comparison to midfielders, he's not doing any tackles, any interceptions, no defensive work, and he is barely doing much midfield work progressing the ball with passes and carry. But he is doing an amount of insane aerials won and getting a loads of non-penalty XG chances and shots away, so he's basically playing as a striker in midfield. In striker, as you can see, he is much more as a passer. He is comparatively to other strikers doing a lot more of the progressive work and the passing, and doing a lot more defensive work as well. So it is very much fair to say that he is in between a striker and a midfielder, and I think false 9 is the best way to describe his best role. And he is much better further forward because although if a team goes long, you can't have him winning necessarily the deeper duels through the headers and trying to get the ball up the pitch quicker. You've got other players that can do that, such as Rice and now Partey coming into the team. Him being able to press with Odegaard's a massive thing that really matters. Him and Odegaard are the best pressers in the team and are the best at running down opponents in space. And he is one of the reasons why it starts the press in the first place, so we can shift the ball out to the left side of the other teams and then suffocate them inwards like we did against Chelsea with Partey and Ben White coming forward to try and win the ball back. Of course, I would love to see Havertz have a bit more intuition in front of goal in these areas, because he does seem to mess up his chances. And I do see some complaints that some people don't think he shoots too much, or some people think he shoots too much. It's a bit of a different way of looking at it. But I do think he's improving, and there's a lot of potential in that position because he is creating chances for everyone around him. And one of the things I specifically really love about him is that if Arsenal are struggling against maybe a low block or a mid block, they can just boot the ball up towards Havertz. He can bring the ball down and get people into play. There's many times where that Saka would lift the ball into him, or someone else would, and it'd chest the ball down for Odegaard running in behind, letting him get into that half space and get us more chances up there. And some of the reasons why I think he is in the team over any other striker is because his off the ball work is exceptional, but it's also exceptional when Arsenal want to create chances. For instance, when we had that equaliser against Bayern Munich to make it 2-2 in the first leg, he's actually very deep at the start of the play, but he runs so quickly to try and get into position to obviously try and score. But I think he also thinks about the players around him. He brings Kimmich with him, creating the space in between the defenders for Trossard to score. And this is just a selected example, but he's done this all season, where he has pushed players away and made runs that end up giving space to other players. And specifically, this works a lot with Martin Odegaard. And with the finishing qualities of players like Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah, it's become quite clear that Havertz is probably the best option to play in that position. Not only does he give the chances and more play for other players around him, you see Odegaard play a lot better when Havertz is up front, same with Declan Rice and even Bukayo Saka. He's also not the best finisher in the world, but he is a quite substantial finisher that can help us in the team, considering that other players aren't that good either. And Arsenal themselves, having a player that isn't really restricted to a position or a role in certain teams, I think helps them more in the long run. Havertz will even pick up positions on the left wing or the right wing, or even come back into defensive midfield. He's a very good player to have when you're trying to defend the league, because he will come back and defend, but he's also a very good player to be on the break because he changes his position and is always doing something different than he did before. And this is why I think there is rumours that we might not be going in for a striker this summer because of the excellent performances by Havertz. And of course, he is always going to miss chances, but if he makes everyone around you better and you maybe get better finishes around him, then I think it's only going to improve Arsenal in the future. And for someone that's been heavily criticised this season by a lot of people, I do think he has really turned it around. He's still the same player in there. He's going to miss big chances sometimes, but he's ultimately found his role and his position within the squad. And I think even when he plays in centre mid, it sometimes goes all right, because I do think it has worked in other games. But even against Wolves, when we switched to positions and he moved back up front, we looked much better. And against Aston Villa, although we had chances, we didn't look as best as we could have with him in midfield. So not only do I think he should be played up front in the big games, which I think is the likelihood that would happen, I think he should be played up front in every game, because I think it currently makes Arsenal better, especially with the inclusion of Thomas Partey, that allows Declan Rice to get further forward and help the team sustain possession a lot further up the pitch. Let me know what you guys think about Kai Havertz and his performances, and do you think you've finally found the role for him, or we should still consider getting another striker in the summer? Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.